Good afternoon, brothers and sisters in Christ. It's Sammy here. Today, I just wanted to take a moment and encourage you on one aspect of prayer, and that is learning to pray without ceasing. You know, there's this passage in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verses 16 to 18, which says, "Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." These were the Apostle Paul's words to the church in Thessalonica. And notice that part of God's will for us in Christ Jesus was that we would pray continually or pray without ceasing. You know, I used to wonder how it was possible to be able to pray at all times or pray without ceasing, especially when so many of us have busy schedules during the week. We have workplaces that we need to be in, we have universities and schools that we need to attend, and it's not always practical being able to pray out loud on every occasion without ceasing. But there is a passage in the scriptures that might help give a bit of context and help us understand how it is possible to pray without ceasing. You see, we find in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 14, and this was a chapter where Paul spoke to the church in Corinth about spiritual gifts, about the gift of prophecy and tongues, and when they should be used. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 14, this is what the Apostle Paul says. "For if I pray in a tongue, my spirit prays, but my mind is unfruitful. So what shall I do? I will pray with my spirit, but I will also pray with my mind." Notice from this passage, we see that we can also pray to Jesus in our minds. And I believe that this is a big key in being able to pray at all times and pray without ceasing. Because in those moments where we might be busy at work or at school or uni or amongst the busyness of our weeks, where we might not always be able to pray to Jesus out loud, this verse reminds us that we can actually be praying to Jesus in our minds in that moment. And I believe this is a big key in being able to pray without ceasing. And so my prayer is that in those busier moments during your week where you might be at work or university or school or whatever it is that you might be doing amongst the busyness of your week, I pray that you might take those moments to pray to Jesus in your mind, because he knows our thoughts, as Luke chapter 5 verse 22 tells us. And so because Jesus knows the very thoughts we're thinking, it's a beautiful reminder that we can pray to him in our minds. We can intercede for people in our minds, and we can cast all our cares and bring our prayers and petitions to him, even with the thoughts of our mind, because he knows our thoughts, he hears our prayers, and he understands. And so God bless, and I pray that this might encourage you to pray without ceasing, as Paul tells the Thessalonians to do so in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 17. God bless.